Big money, big guns.
Well, it doesn't really matter who gets the ticket because anybody could be a better president than President Bush at this point. And let's focus on just a Democrat winning in 2008 and put aside everything.
But that's not the question. I said, who would, if you had to pick somebody?
I'm sorry, what?
If you had to pick somebody, who would you pick?
I'd pick a Democrat. Well, let's face it, I mean, all of the college Democrats, you know, we're so behind just winning a Democrat in 2008. It's time for the Democrat to win. Let's focus on that first.
But I also got to say this. I think that the Democrats have an opportunity right now to come forward and seize this opportunity. But I think so many of them are concerned about getting votes that they're trying to see which way is going to go before they come out and take a political stand.
They're all trying to reinvent themselves. None of them have any core beliefs. There's nothing you can depend on. This is like George W. Bush running in 2000 for a more modest foreign policy. There is nothing any of them believe in other than trying to get a monopoly on some kind of power in Washington.
If we don't stop extending our troops all around the world in nation-building missions, then we're going to have a serious problem coming down the road, and I'm going to prevent that.
You know, these people sell off a little bit of themselves each time they stick out their hand and they agree to do something for somebody to collect the money. And by the time they're in office, there's nothing left. No wonder they have no core beliefs. Slice by slice by slice, they sell themselves away. Hillary is no different. We are faced with a really, really tough challenge of people here that want to expand the war, continue to ruin brand name America, and decapitalize this country. And I think it's time the American people wake up to the whole bunch of them, the R's and the D's alike.
Had my judgment prevailed back in 2002, we wouldn't be in this predicament. I was opposed to this war from the start and have been opposed to this war consistently. But I have also said that there are no good options now. There are bad options and worse options.
Let me just tell you, I think Obama has given himself too much credit for his opposition to the war. It was very convenient for him to say that he opposed it before he was elected. But since he has been a United States Senator, he has fallen right in line on every vote to continue the war, authorize the war. His voting record on the war is identical to Hillary Clinton's. It's not as though there was ever a proposal to strand those Americans halfway around the world and leave them, but the war needs to be stepped down and defunded, and he hasn't done anything to get it done.
4 of these people here will say that it's George Bush's war. It was facilitated by the Democrats. They brought the resolution up. One of them co-authored it here, standing here, and so it's sure it's George Bush's war, but it's the Democrats' war also. There's information coming out. Senator Durbin, Mr. Strum in his book, that really points out that these people knew that there was 2 sets of intelligence going on at the same time. And they made a political decision to vote the way they voted. A political decision that cost, stop and think, we have killed more Americans than was done on the 11th of September. More Americans died because of their decision.
And you now say there are 2 parties in Congress right now, big government conservatives and big government liberals, and the only difference is what they want to spend money on.
So I would say that in some ways, yes, they have some differences, but in other ways, I think Republicans have grown to act just like Democrats.
And I have my suspicion that whether Democrats or Republicans, they're not going to get out of Iraq even after the election. I don't care who's elected. We went in there for the control of oil. This was an oil war by George Bush. The Democrats bought into it in the Congress, and you think that they're going to give up this control of oil?
Will you pledge that by January 2013, the end of your first term, more than 5 years from now, there will be no U.S. troops in Iraq?
I think it's hard to project 4 years from now, and I think it would be irresponsible. We don't know what contingency will be out there. What I can promise is that I will drastically reduce our presence there to the mission of protecting our embassy, protecting our civilians, and making sure that we're carrying out counterterrorism activities there.
Senator Clinton, Democrats all across the country believed in 2006, when the Democrats were elected to the majority in the House and Senate, that was a signal to end the war, and the war would end. You have said that you will not pledge to have all troops out by the end of your first term, 2013. Why not?
Well, Tim, it is my goal to have all troops out by the end of my first term. But I agree with Barack. It is very difficult to know what we're going to be inheriting. You know, we do not know, walking into the White House in January 2009, what we're going to find.
Senator Edwards, will you commit that at the end of your first term in 2013, all U.S. troops will be out of Iraq?
I cannot make that commitment. I think the problem is, and it's what you've just heard discussed, is we will maintain an embassy in Baghdad. That embassy has to be protected. We will probably have humanitarian workers in Iraq. Those humanitarian workers have to be protected. I think somewhere in the neighborhood of a brigade of troops will be necessary to accomplish that.
Who do you mean when you say someone who loves the war and loves neocons?
Well, the people who have run our foreign policy, all the advisors that the president has had, but they advise the Democrats as well. I mean, those who say that we can't take anything off the table as far as Iran is concerned, those who say we can't get our troops home, and this is on the Democratic side as well, for 2013, I mean, they are in control. The people who believe in interventionism and an aggressive foreign policy are in control of both parties.
Congressman Kucinich, please.
As the only one on this stage who actually voted against the war and voted 100% of the time against funding the war, I have a rather unique perspective. I've introduced legislation, H.R. 1234, which is the plan to end the Iraq war. To me, it is fairly astonishing to have Democrats who took back the power of the House and the Senate in 2006 to stand on this stage and tell the American people that this war will continue to 2013 and perhaps past that. I want everyone to know, I want the American people to know that I've been on this from the beginning, and I know that we can get out of there 3 months after I take office or after the new president takes office if one is determined to do that.
It turns out the democratically controlled 110th Congress may be more worthless than the bunch that preceded it. That's possible. The democratically controlled Congress handed President Bush exactly what he wanted, more than he asked for even. Legislation that broadly expands the administration's power to eavesdrop without warrants on Americans' international phone calls and emails. Samantha in Arizona writes, Jack, congratulations to our Congress. In backing a president who continues to violate our Constitution and prolong a lie-based war, they have just proven they are not only as corrupt as he is, but they keep violating they keep completely useless. It's time to keep voting every incumbent out of office. And Tom in Delaware writes, the Democrats have joined the Republicans in scuffling the Constitution. I am less afraid of a terrorist attack than I am of my own government.
You know, with respect to the question, though, about the Democrats taking control of the Congress, I think the Democrats have pushed extremely hard to change this president's course.
The Democratic leadership has, in sum, claimed a compromise with the administration, in which the only things truly compromised are the trust of the voters, the ethics of the Democrats, and the lives of our brave and doomed friends and family in Iraq. Mr. Bush has failed, Mr. Warner has failed, Mr. Reid has failed. So, who among us will stop this war of lies? To he or she fall the figurative keys to the nation. To all the others, presidents and majority leaders and candidates and rank-and-file congressmen and senators of either party, there is only blame for this shameful and bipartisan betrayal.
You have two political parties, the Republicans and the Democrats, that are simply, those two parties are simply opposite wings of the same bird, and they're giving the bird to the American people.
I think the large majority of the American people are ready for changes, and that the base of the Republican Party and the base of the Democratic Party is pretty small compared to the people who are disgruntled.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
President Eisenhower was absolutely right, and he understood. Think about it. If the war was a money loser for Wall Street, would we still be at war?
The military-industrial complex not only controls our government, lock, stock, and barrel, but they control our culture.
This is done by emphasizing property rights and freedom of the individuals, making sure that the powerful special interests don't control Washington, that the military-industrial complex doesn't suck away all the wealth of the country, and then we would have prosperity. This is what we need.
I'm tired of seeing gravel in these debates. I'm tired of seeing Kucinich. On the Republican side, Ron Paul, he's a joy to watch, I got to admit, but I don't want to hear these guys. They're not the real candidates.
So what do you want to hear?